as the company starts to get a little bit bigger, you've got to document what you do. You've got to get it. You've got to get your processes on paper. You've got to get your checklist and the things that make effective lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. You've got to get that on paper. And if you don't do it, what happens is everybody starts to be left to their own devices, and they're well-intentioned. They're doing the best they can. But before long, the entrepreneur walks in and says, what the heck's going on? Why are we doing it this way? What happened?
What's up, everyone? I'm Chris Ronzio, founder and CEO of Trainual, and this is Process Makes Perfect. As always, we're talking with experts in process automation, creation, delegation, basically the people that know how to make business easier. You just heard Clate Mask, and this episode is all about the process of growing a small business. Now, Clate's one of my mentors, advisors, and he's on Trainual's board. But before I knew him personally, I admired him from a distance here in the small business community in Arizona. Because for 19 years, Clate has built InfusionSoft and now Keap from a struggling startup into an 8-time Inc. 500 5,000 winner. So he's been through this himself and served thousands and thousands of other small businesses. He's recognized community-wide, worldwide as a visionary leader, and his passion from small businesses just extends from doing this himself. Now, Keap, or formerly InfusionSoft, has landed 4 rounds of venture capital, including the latest round, a $55 million round led by Bain Capital Ventures. He was named an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year finalist and a top 100 small business influencer by Small Business Trends. He's a national speaker, co-author of the New York Times bestseller, Conquer the Chaos, How to Grow a Successful Small Business Without Going Crazy, which is something we all need. So what I loved about this episode is Clate gets so specific with outlining the different stages of business growth that you go through. And at each of the stages, there's kind of a revenue marker that he points to, and there's a key problem that you need to solve. So Clate, I know from experience, is very tactical and surgical about the advice he gives, and you'll get to see that here in this episode. I hope you enjoy it.
Can this business thrive without the owner?
You got to start putting systems and processes in place. If you don't use the systems, the business will break.
We're always looking to buy back our time.
You cannot say something once and expect that it actually is received.
This is the way we work.
A big motivation in that for me is creating a job for myself that I really enjoy.
This is how you discover your vision.
And this is Process Makes Perfect. Hey everyone, and welcome to Process Makes Perfect. I'm your host, Chris Ronzio, and as you heard in the intro, today we're talking with Clate Mask. Clate, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Chris. Thank you.
So everyone that's listening, this is a pretty special interview because when I was starting Trainual here in the Phoenix, Arizona area, Clate is like the Michael Jordan of the startup scene. Like everyone talks about Clate. Everyone has a story of they heard Clate speak. And so I was so determined to meet him, and I'm very fortunate that now he's a part of Trainual, first as an advisor, now as a board member. So Clate, thank you again.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. You're doing great stuff. Happy to be a part of it.
So Clate, InfusionSoft, or now Keap, has been around for, is it decades? Can I say decades yet? It's getting close, right?
Yeah, we're getting there. Almost 19 years.
Crazy. So you have been a pioneer in this sort of SaaS industry and serving small businesses. The thing I love about your focus is that you've got a more dedication and passion to small business than I've seen from, I think, any other software company, which is what drew me to you so closely. So I want to talk today about the process of growing small businesses, since that's what Keap does, right?
That's right. Well, thanks. We are very committed to helping small businesses grow. Our purpose is to help small businesses succeed. Our mission is to simplify the growth for millions. And for good or for bad, we've always been totally committed to small businesses. Sometimes people have given me crap for that and said we should move upstream, but that's not what we're doing. We're totally focused on helping small businesses grow.
Well, that's great. And I hear the same thing. You know, everybody says you maybe you start with small business and then you move mid-market and then enterprise. So it takes a lot of courage, I think, to stick with a target customer that you're really passionate about.
Well, thanks. Courage or stupidity? I think I get accused of both. So
for anyone that doesn't have the background or I guess lives under a rock, can you just share quickly what InfusionSoft did and now Keap does?
Yeah. InfusionSoft's the leader in sales and marketing automation software. The name of the company was InfusionSoft. And then about a year ago, we created a lighter, easier version of our software and recognized that that would be the product that most customers would start with and the bigger numbers would be on. So we decided to name the new product something easier, simpler. We named it Keap. And then we decided, let's have the company be the same name. So Keap is all about the tenacity and perseverance that's required for small businesses to succeed. If you know our brand, we're very much a champion of small business growth, cheerleading. We know how hard it is. Most entrepreneurs at some point want to quit. Our message is to keep going, keep serving, keep growing.
I love that. So as you were building InfusionSoft, what kept sticking out to you about your customer base that led you to want to create a simpler product?
Yeah. And we still have the InfusionSoft product. It's the high-end version of our software. It's super powerful sales and marketing automation for small businesses. If you can flowchart it, you can automate it in our software. And it's an awesome product. What we did is we recognized that many people didn't need all of that power yet. They needed light, simple automation. They needed an intuitive, easy experience. We had heard that forever. Everything from, the learning curve's really tough to my favorite, it's ConfusionSoft. We heard it all. And we recognized that for people who weren't ready for that power, it was confusing. That's exactly right. But for those who want the power, it's beautiful and it's amazing. So we recognized we needed a line of products and we needed to start simple for people. So we created our Keap Grow product. And then we have our Keap Pro product, which has our campaign builder that is kind of sort of the crown jewel of InfusionSoft, but it's got not as many of the bells and whistles. It's a lot lighter, easier in interface, very much mobile first. So, we had just heard, Chris, for a long time that people they weren't ready for all of that power and the marketing and sales automation capabilities. So while they wanted our CRM software and they wanted email marketing and they wanted a little bit of automation, they didn't need the whole enchilada. That's why we created Keap, and now we have Keap Pro and InfusionSoft.
Makes total sense. So wherever they are on this life cycle of growing a small business, now you've kind of got something for them from the very early stages. And then as they get bigger, do they graduate into the bigger products? Is that how it works?
That's right. Yeah. So, and that's exactly the point. We had heard forever, gosh, don't you have something for me? I'm just getting started, and that sort of thing. So that's why we created Keap. And it's really fun to have a product line, a family of products now. And we're having a blast serving more customers now, being able to appeal to small businesses that want part of what InfusionSoft offers, but they are not ready for the whole thing.
That's so interesting because we see the same thing, with Trainual. People comment on ads saying, I want this, but I don't need this. And is there a cheaper version? And so that's probably the echoes of what you were hearing over the last 19 years, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So on this life cycle of entrepreneurship, of small business, I've heard you talk before about the stages that people grow through. So could you break it down to the earliest to the more mature stages?
Yeah, we refer to the stages of small business growth, and there's it's really interesting how this evolves. About 10 years ago, Scott and I had been running the business for nearly a decade. We noticed some really interesting, almost predictable trends in small business, in their growth and evolution. And we could see that when the entrepreneur would overcome certain obstacles, they would get to a new stage of their business. And we were about, we'd been in business about 9 years. We wrote our book, Conquer the Chaos. And in the process of writing that book, we did a bunch of research. And a lot of that research was in the Census Bureau data around businesses. And we started to see that not only were we recognizing in our day-to-day experience with businesses a very predictable trend of growth and plateauing of growth, but we could see it in the aggregate data of the Census Bureau. And we started to recognize that there were clear stage changes of business that occurred on certain intervals. And as we really dug into it, what we found over time is that it happens at the 1s and 3s of revenue. So when you get 0 to 100,000, at 100,000, you hit a new stage. You get out of the stage of kind of being a job and sort of a side business or a a solopreneur business, now you get into where you start employing people. And so from 100,000 to 300,000, that's another stage. And then when you get past 300,000, you start to move into a new stage. From 300,000 to $1 million is a stage, and you get the idea. $1 million to $3 million, $3 million to $10 million. And we really focus on these 5 stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 0 to 100,000, 100,000 to 300,000, 300,000 to $1 million, $1 million to $3 million, $3 million to $10 million. Now I can tell you from personal experience, the stages continue 10 to 30 million, 30 to 100 million, 100 to 300 million. And I imagine as I experience it, it'll continue to go beyond that. There's something about those stages where your people, process, and systems need to change. And if they don't, you plateau at those stages.
Wow, I've never heard it so clearly stated with the 1s and 3s. I love that. So as they're progressing, I imagine the team dynamic changes, the tools that they use change, the way that they serve their customers changes. So how ahead of the curve do small businesses need to be? Like when do they put the new systems in place? Is it they wait till they cross $300,001 and then they have a meeting about it, or how does this work?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I've found, and as I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs on this, we created a business called Elite Entrepreneurs that I think you're familiar with, and we spun it out a couple of years ago so that we could just stay focused on our software. But we coached hundreds of businesses, and I'm still involved to a certain extent in advising some of those businesses. What we found is it's not so much about this magic mark at 300,000. It's first and foremost about the awareness that you need to be working on your people, process, and systems as you approach those points. If you're constantly working on it, then what I've found is entrepreneurs can glide through those stage changes and continue their upward trajectory. If they're unconscious to those stages, they get stuck and they get frustrated and they wonder why are we we were growing so nicely and now what's happened? And so the first thing is an awareness of the stages. The second thing is to be working on the team. That's probably the most critical thing, particularly when you get past $1 million. What you find is a lot of entrepreneurs can sort of hustle and grit their way through the business up to $1 million, but then you've got to really start working on your leadership team. So getting to 100,000, by the way, the big obstacle there is time. You just don't have enough hours in the day. So it's literally a matter of midnight oil. Getting to 100,000, getting to 300,000. The critical thing is the sales skill to be able to close leads and turn them into customers and clients. And then getting from 300,000 to $1 million, it's marketing. It's the ability to reach out and do lead generation and then turn those leads into sales opportunities that you can convert. When you get through that sales and marketing and time series of hurdles, then it becomes about people. And so when I talk about a change with people, process, and systems, sub 1 million, it's really about your sales and marketing process. That's the critical thing. And the reason why most small businesses, you and I are big Michael Gerber fans, the reason why most small businesses don't make it to $1 million and they die is that they don't have good lead generation, lead conversion process in place. That's really what it's all about in getting to $1 million.
Now, I've talked to some entrepreneurs that they say maybe they want a small business or they want some kind of lifestyle business. So do you think it really depends on the person to which threshold they build through or past?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because what I say all the time when I teach this is I'm not giving you a prescription. I'm giving you a description. I'm not saying you need to do this if, in order to. I'm saying if you want to go to a particular stage, I'm describing the landscape so you can understand what it looks like. And then the other thing I'll say is, hey, if you want to settle in as a $500,000 business and, a handful of employees, 2, 3, 4 employees, great. Just be aware of what the systemic issues in business. And then most importantly, be aware that you can create greater efficiency and therefore greater profitability as you understand these dynamics. So in other words, you might say, well, I don't want to worry about the people issues that are required to have a company that's over $1 million. Or you might think that you're going to have a business that's over $1 million and it's going to be only you. And for the most part, I'm going to say that's a pipe dream. This is not going to happen. Generally speaking, you've got to have people in order to grow revenue. It's a very, very rare situation where you find somebody that can be a solopreneur millionaire. It's just very, very rare. So understand the dynamics, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't want to have a lot of people, but they want to make millions. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You might have them as contractors. You might have them as, in different ways, but you're going to be working with people. So you might as well learn to come to grips with that. The other part is, if you want to be profitable and efficient, well, you can put automation in place. You can put systems and processes in place that enable you to be very efficient, and you can start to push the bounds of revenue per employee and the dynamics that typically exist. And you can become an outlier where, we do have customers on InfusionSoft that have $1 million businesses, and it's them and an assistant. So it's not that it's impossible, it's just very improbable, particularly if you're not aware of the dynamics.
So this next question I'll ask, you can answer through the lens of your own experience with InfusionSoft and Keap, or through the lens of your customers. But I'm curious, how does the product or service offering change as you grow through this? From when you're the solopreneur doing it yourself, are you still doing the same thing as the business 10X's in size?
Really, really great point. So let me just make sure. So when you say how does the product change, do you mean how does the entrepreneur's product change?
Yeah, how does the offering change? Is it the same thing and you're just teaching other people to do it, or do you get a much more complex product to try to serve more customers?
Yeah, really great question. So your product does change and evolve as you go through these stages. I said people, process, and system change. Product does as well. And a lot of times what happens is people get stuck on an offering that they can deliver with their time, but their people can't deliver it with their time. And so you have to begin to productize a service in that example. Many times the entrepreneur is a service-based business, and the business is them. And that works when they're a solopreneur. It works when they're getting up to 200, 300,000 revenue, but then there are only so many hours in the day. And so you've got to either digitize your solution, or you've got to create consultants that work for you that can deliver the solution, or you've got to create a product around what you have that can deliver the same benefit. So it's a really good observation you're making. Without a doubt, in order to go through the stages, particularly what I found is that if you're going to make 2-stage changes, meaning essentially that you're growing 10x, you're going to have to adjust your offering. Many times you have to adjust it to make a 3x change, but you definitely have to do it when you're making a 10x change.
That's such a great point. So if you've got ambitious growth goals and you're listening to this, you might have to think about what the offering is today and how that changes to get to that 10x place. So the thing that holds a lot of people back going from solo into a more scalable business is delegation, or passing off certain responsibilities. So in your experience, how do people break through that challenge of handing off how to do things?
Yeah, that's part of why I love what you do at Trainual, because that is, I would say, it's the biggest challenge at the $1 million entrepreneur level. The biggest challenge is the entrepreneur has, at that point, usually a team of people around them, but it's a fairly small team. And they usually at that point are all reporting up to the entrepreneur. And so the entrepreneur's got, 5 to 10 people. And the challenge of the people around the entrepreneur who can read the entrepreneur's mind is getting bigger and bigger. When there's just a few people, there's very fluid communication. People they know what the entrepreneur wants. As the company starts to get a little bit bigger, you've got to document what you do. You've got to get your processes on paper. You've got to get your checklist and the things that make effective lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. You've got to get that on paper. And if you don't do it, what happens is everybody starts to be left to their own devices. Right. And they're well-intentioned. They're doing the best they can. But before long, the entrepreneur walks in and says, what the heck's going on? Why are we doing it this way? What happened? And who's this person? You start to lose the control, and you lose the ability to deliver for your clients. And you start to run into all kinds of client fulfillment issues. You're dropping leads left and right. There are issues that are happening in the business, and the business plateaus. And a lot of times the entrepreneur can't figure out why they're stuck at $1 million. Well, It's because they haven't documented and put the processes in place that enable other people to execute.
Right. I love that. I always say there's a link between training and trusting, because if you can show someone how to do something and sign off on it, you can leave them alone. You don't have to jump back in.
Yes.
So as we wrap this up, we always like to end with these 5 questions. So I'll go rapid fire, say whatever comes to you. But first, what's a brand you think has perfected its process that you admire?
Disney.
Nice.
I love the Disney parks.
Perfect. Who's someone who's coached or mentored you?
Let's see. I'd say Michael Gerber, Jim Collins, and my personal executive coach, Steve Hardison.
What's your favorite book or podcast other than mine and yours?
The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale.
Great. Most entertaining person you follow online?
I'm not a big social media follower or celebrity follower, but I am an NBA fan, and I love Charles Barkley.
He's very entertaining. And what's one app that you couldn't live without?
Slack.
Yeah, me too. All right, Clate. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to connect with you, where should they find you or reach out to you?
Keap.com, KEAP.com is a great place to learn and connect and see the resources we've created, especially during, the coronavirus. We've created a bunch of keep going resources for small businesses. They can get that on our website, on our blog, or you can follow me on Twitter.
Awesome. Keep going, keep growing, Clate. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. I think for everyone that's listening, pay attention to the 1s and 3s and the changes happening in your business. And Clate's an amazing resource through his company. So thank you again, Clate, for being here.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be with you. And thanks and good luck for all you're doing at Trainual.
Hey, thanks for listening to Process Makes Perfect. If you're watching on YouTube, we do have an audio version available everywhere you listen to your podcast, so be sure to check that out. If you liked what you heard, please leave a review and be sure to subscribe to the channel here. And we'd love if you would tell a few friends or family or anyone you think that could benefit from this. You can find me on social media anywhere at Chris Ronzio, or the company Trainual, that's Train UAL, like a training manual, at Trainual, anywhere you want to follow us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.